Every now and then, I come across an aircraft that is not bad, but definitely not worth the price that they're asking. It's a victim of its own time, and I think that's what we have here today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Flight Simulator 2024, and welcome, I'll do this in one quick go, frame rate, to the Leonardo Mad Dog. Fly the Mad Dog X, as well as the expansion pack. So the expansion pack is the MD-83 and MD-88, I believe. The default is just the MD-82. And if you buy both of these, they cost $117.83 plus tax. Is this aircraft and the subsequent variants of it worth the $88 or $120 that we see? Or is this a waste of money? I've already kind of given it away with my intro, but nonetheless, we're going to give this aircraft a full and thorough review, going through every aspect of it. There are definitely some good parts, but there's definitely some parts that need to be improved upon if you're going to offer an aircraft at this price point for this simulator, and we'll get into all of that. Let's begin. So per usual, we're going to go ahead and start with textures. You can see I've exploded certain parts of the aircraft. We'll talk about a little bit of that as well. It is worth noting that this aircraft was released for Flight Simulator 2020. However, on the website for the aircraft, it says right there, where is it? 2024/2020. There should be a caveat that if you're going to make it available, quote unquote, it should hold mustard, at least in the textures and functionality department, and we're definitely not doing ourselves any favors. It's not just the hidden stuff like the radome. You can come over to this AOA probe, horrible. The GPU probe, I haven't seen a 2D texture for quite some time. The hinges aren't this is just not good. And it defaults to this condition too. Also do want to point out it's 4th of July, so if you hear explosions or fireworks, it is what it is. I can't do anything about other people. And normally I'm willing to let a lot of this stuff go because it's just down to do the texture. So like this font here, okay, fine. It's a shitty texture, right? But no, I'm sorry, it's a shitty livery rather. But no, there's just bad textures. Look at the taxi light reflectors. Look at the nose gear, struts, the supporting brace. We'll get underneath the main gear in a second. This is not 2024 quality, and I would argue this is not 2020 quality. They were way better aircraft. Again, this 2D texture here. I think these are supposed to be static ports, your outflow valves. Again, all just 2D things on basically what's just a tube. Bad modeling, in my opinion, on the reflector for your wing light. Maybe that's the wing light. Oh, that's right. The MD-80 has, it's got two different lights. We come to one of our first 3D features. Still not very well modeled. I think I can just barely eke up in there. Stand by. Yeah, I mean, this is just not... This would be unacceptable for... And look at this. This is unacceptable for a $40 airplane. I would say this is unacceptable for a $30 airplane in the 2024 era, even the 2020 era. It is completely unacceptable to charge $120, or if you buy just this aircraft, $90 with tax for this aircraft with textures. I'm sorry, plain and simple. With this being a 2020 era aircraft, it does have good external lighting, so that's neat, that's nice. We do like that. The wing tip lights do swing down into position. We'll take a look at that later on. But yeah, it's a lot of the same, right? A lot of just bad quality. Again, your piston that goes into your cylinder for the or what is it? Strut? Is the strut the right word? It doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. This here, it's just cut off, floating in free space. This is not a good start. You've got your outflow valve, again, just a nothing void and a really bad low quality thing, I would rather not be able to open the engine nacelles versus look at this. You guys tell me, is this a result of porting it to 2020? Because I try to make an effort to either showcase exclusively 2024 ready aircraft, or at least advertise 2024 ready aircraft, or to make it very well known that this was a 2020 aircraft. And I mean, in the case of this, it is, but I would be peeved if I paid half the price of what they're asking for this and got these textures. Not even just the livery, the textures. And it's one of those, like, from like 20 feet back deals, maybe 50 feet back deals. It looks okay, but as soon as you start closing the gap, it just, no, man, I'm sorry. This is unacceptable. I can appreciate the details of opening the nacelles and dropping the gear door and having the air stairs and all that other crap, but if your airplane looks like this, don't bother. Cover up as much of it as you can. I wouldn't want people to be able to explore this. I wouldn't. There's that wingtip landing lights in the swung down position. I wonder, I genuinely wonder if there's like a setting or something that I'm missing. Because this just isn't it. And the real kick in the pants with this is the performance on this aircraft, at least in my testing, compared to a lot of other aircraft that we will look at a later date. Which are, in my opinion, higher visual fidelity and arguably higher control fidelity, are better performing. You know, even the cabin's low poly, you can't click any of these guys down. There's no fasten seatbelt or no smoking sense. I mean, this is abysmal. This is horrible looking. So let's go back to the cockpit. I was going to go back to the air stairs, but I don't care. One place where it does look all right is the flight deck, and that's probably for the better. That's where you're going to spend most of your time. There's tons of textures falling apart. I'm not going to point them all out. The screens look all right. I would like to see a little bit of a little bit more bevel than that. I don't know. I'm not sold. Again, everything just kind of looks a little bit worse for wear, if you will. Yeah, not really doing it. And I hate to keep harping on the price point, but at a price as, I'll say it, as egregious as this, nah, they swung and they missed, man. I'm sorry. They swung and they missed. So, let's look through a few systems here with that little EFB tablet you can see I've got set up there. And then we'll go to a startup and we'll fly this aircraft to a, I think, a fitting destination. All right, let's talk the EFB just a little bit, and then we'll go into sounds and startup of the aircraft. Sound good? Sound good. Great. I'm doing the video, so you don't have a choice. Well, you can choose to click off, but don't. Anyway, I like the general electronic flight bag here. There's quite a bit that you can do with the aircraft as far as flight planning and all that stuff. I'll just quickly whiz through some of these. This is where you would store your flight plan. There's actually a folder that it leaves on your C drive or wherever you choose to leave it, and you can leave them there and it'll pull them up. There is a running aircraft maintenance log, which would have been really cool back in the day when this was probably a little bit more worth the purchase price. Again, and then there's a second documents folder you can drop stuff in, your checklists right on board, so you don't have to use the stupid flight simulator ones that I never do. Aircraft services is where I was before, and we're going to talk about this page in just a second. And then finally, if you've got a Navigraph account, you can sign in and access your charts straight on the tablet. If you don't want this tablet here, you just go down here and boom, it's gone. I don't like the fact that, so if you think of other aircraft in the, we'll call it the premium pricing category, think your PMDGs, like the 737, the 777, stuff like that. They have a similar, or took them a while, but now they have a similar management system where you can request and release your ground services through a tablet like this. Before PMDG, you had to do it through the FMS, but that's neither here nor there. And what was cool is they had little support vehicles. So you can see right now I have the GPU on, I have the air starter unit connected, as well as external air conditioning. Where are they? They're nowhere to be found, and Flight Simulator's having a tizzy. Again, performance on this is not great. Let me just make sure I've got my EPU generators on. I'm going to get rid of this stuff, because I don't need it. I'm actually going to ditch the tablet altogether, but you can see, like I said before, that, where are you? The GPU door stays open, regardless of if it's connected or not, so that's a swing and a miss, in my opinion. Okay, so let me stop. Okay, last thing I'm going to harp on. I don't like this whole pilot floating head thing, and I think there is a way to get rid of this pilot body, but I hate the fact that his little boom microphone comes in. If you were going to do this, make it so I don't have a head. So, you know, like first-person shooters, they render in the body. It's like when you look down, you have a body, but they don't render the head, so your head doesn't clip in and out of stuff. Right now, I'm sitting exactly where my avatar's head would be, and when he artificially moves his head around, it clips his little microphone, and I don't like it. Anyway, let me stop harping on the negatives of this aircraft, because there are quite a few good things, and quite a lot of bespoke study level things. This is 100% a study level aircraft. And first we'll talk about the sounds. As far as I can tell, all of these sounds are custom done, custom made, custom sampled, and that sort of thing. I love that. Almost every single thing in here makes its own. And I'm lying. Straight off lying. There we go. Almost everything in here has a soundscape, whether it be faint or not. And I love that. You can hear the clatter of the gyros running in the background. All your switches have custom sounds. I like that you have, again, that kind of customized fasten seatbelt, no smoking sound. Be nice if there were lights in the back, but, you know, we'll take what we can get. Let's walk through a startup on the MD-82. It's a little bit unique for this aircraft, and it's not necessarily due to how it's done. It's more so just because of the MD-80 family, and I want to say the DC-9s did as well. A very odd layout for everything, actually. I was going to say for the overhead panel, but it's everything. So normally, the traditional layout we would expect to see our exterior lights here. Well, they're split up a little bit. We've got our landing lights over here, and then we've got our other external lights here. So there's your position strobe combo, kind of like a 737, your anti-collision, or your strobe lights, floodlights, and then your wing lights. On the glare shield. Interesting. And while things are kind of grouped together, like you would expect, so you have an entire panel for the APU, but that also includes the main battery, that also includes the emergency power. Also, instead of having one fire panel, each subset has its own fire stuff. So in the APU section here, you can see we've got the fire agents in that same panel. It's a similar thing for the engines, I believe. If I come back here, where are you? Oh no, engines have their own loop system. So you've got fire suppression for the engines and cargo up here, but not the APU. It's just a very, very interesting system. Your hydraulics are down here, not on the overhead. It's just an interesting aircraft. I'm not necessarily saying if it's good or bad. It's interesting. Anyway, that out of the way, let's run through the startup. We've been sitting on the APU bleed air, getting the cabin relatively cool for a while. Unfortunately, that's going to have to go away for just a little bit. But there's a few things we can do first. Let's do a start pump. We'll unguard both of those switches. We'll arm our emergency lights as well, because I forgot. And high pressure bleed goes off, so we get a little bit more consistent pressure in those bleed systems. Looks like we're good there. All right, back up over here to the engine start. Let's go both systems, and we'll start engine 1 first. Another small thing I want to note is all of the switches, no matter what they do, you get the little single finger instead of scrolling. So that's always fun to try to remember. Why are we not starting? What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. I need air from the APU on. So this entire time I was not cooling down anything. There we go. N2 is now spinning. Really? 9%? Okay, we'll take it. Here comes fuel. Let's watch for a hot start. Not a lot of sound here. If you open up that window, you get a little bit more. And you hear the generator kick over. And we'll do the same thing on engine 2. Or the first engine, I should say. There we go. On both generators, we'll go ahead and shut off the APU generators. We'll go high pressure bleed to automatic. It'll figure out what it wants to do. We'll turn off the APU bleed so it can start cooling down. We've got our nice cool air flowing through now. Also, this is correct. The stall test being a landing light, I have no idea why it's that. If you worked at McDonnell Douglas or know someone who didn't, you can tell me why the stall test switch is the same as a landing light switch. Please tell me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the... Oh, I forgot all of my fuel pumps. That's embarrassing. Apparently you can start this without fuel pumps going. Well, it still started, so... Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the aircraft configured for our flight, and I will check back with you then. For those of you who were around when the MD-80, DC-9, 727, and the like were operating largely around the world, you may remember the concept of a power-on pushback. I've done this before on the channel, but that's what we're going to do today. For those of you unfamiliar with a power-on pushback, it's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to open up our thrust reversers and use the power of our engines to push the aircraft aft. Like I said, this was commonplace back in the day. Oh, goodbye frame rate. Are those wheel chocks still in place? They... Ooh, boy. Alright, well, I guess we're taking off with wheel chocks. Is there a ground services thing that I missed? Stand by. That's funny. Ground. No, there's nothing for chocks. Nothing for chocks. Anyway, one other thing I did want to mention is if you have GSX Pro, you can utilize GSX. My GSX is still broken in FS2024, so I unfortunately don't use it. But you can see some of the assets. These are I think that's a GSX asset there. That is there. This truck is generic to the sim, and I think that tug's generic as well. But this does have GSX support. Anyway, with our wheel chock still in place somehow, let's taxi out to runway 29er right. And we'll do a standing takeoff. Sit on the brakes for just a second.
Takeoff thrust set.
Take off EPR just a little bit. These older jets use something called EPR, or engine pressure ratio, to calculate the thrust that they're outputting. There were no full FADEX systems where you could just push the throttles forward.
V1, rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up, lights out.
Flaps 5. Really quiet on the inside here. I wonder if that's a bug. That's gotta be a bug. Let's, I think we're good to set the autopilot here. So, auto throttle can go on, autopilot can go on.
Clamp. Slats retracted.
Slats up, and MCT set. Love the autopilot sounds. I think we're not getting engine sounds. There's no way that the Super 80 was this quiet. I recently flew on a Boeing 717, which is a DC-9 variant. It's different engines, but I was sitting midway in the cabin right around here on that aircraft, and those, when I tell you those engines were loud, those were loud, and those have the hush kits installed. Yeah, we're back next to the engines now. And the fact that there's no sound tells me there's just a bug. There's no way this airplane should be this quiet. But, oh well, what can you do? Let's continue on route. We'll keep the autopilot on for most of the flight here. Let the airplane manage itself. And keep on flying. Alright, and with our engines still not producing sound inside, but doing so outside, let's talk through the descent of this aircraft. First thing we can do actually is let's go back to our little performance calculation. Where are we landing? We are landing at, yes, the Mojave Desert Airport. Like I said, we're taking this to a fitting location. If you don't know why, you'll know why in a second. Well, maybe not in a second, in a couple minutes. Anyway, we're roughly 20 miles from the airport now, so let's do a little party trick here and lose a whole bunch of altitude real quick like. We'll scream down to 4,000 feet. We'll start slowing down to 210 knots. The engines should fall. There they go. And here goes the airplane. If we want to aid our descent, we're already descending at About 6,000 feet per minute, but if we want to go even faster, we can dump our spoilers. Probably just make out the runway off of the nose there in the distance. Bleeding off speed like a stabbed rat. I don't know what it means either, don't worry. Alright, so we'll get this rapid descent in. Finish up our ferry flight to land. Be grateful that I never have to see this boom microphone in my face again. And give my closing thoughts. Alright, we are nestling in here. We've got about 2,000 pounds of fuel left. We'll burn some of that up here. Do a high speed, or low level flyby rather.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. 500.
Nice sweeping turn past the tower.
Too low, gear.
GPWS is angry at us.
Too low, gear. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
One final salute before we say goodbye to the MD-80. It's abysmal. Frame rate. Alright, let's get set up for a landing here. Start pulling power back. Bring the nose up. Actually, we got a really good rate of climb already. And we'll come in for a short field on runway 30. Like I said, I do really love the unique soundscapes. The autopilot and oral warnings and all the sounds of the MD-80. Alright, we're below 200. Let's go ahead and drop gear. That'll help with our drag profile.
Gear down, 3 green.
Gear down 3 green. Flaps 5, please.
Slats extended.
And we'll set our EBR reference to go around. Yes, we need it. There is an auto brake on here. It's down here. Let's go ahead and arm that.
Flaps 28.
Alright, we'll settle in for flaps 28. We've got,
Flaps 40.
oh, okay, I guess we'll go flaps 40 then.
500.
We're high.
400.
God, that old school GPWS, or that old school radio altimeter,
Sync
brings me
rate.
back, man.
Sync rate. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Two in reverse.
2 in reverse. Spoilers deployed. There is 80 knots. Reverser stow.
Reverse lights out.
We'll bring in the slots. And we'll taxi off into aircraft storage. Ignore all the flight sim gubbins. on the ground, all that nonsense traffic. If you look on the actual map, you can see there's a lot of different large-scale aircraft there. So that's where we're going to be simulating parking for today. And I think that's as good of a send-off as we can give this aircraft. It definitely needs work done before it's brought to 24. Again, I know I keep harping on about the price point. That's because the price point's high. $120 or even $80 to $90. Excuse me. That's a lot of money to ask for an aircraft. And in the case of 2024, it's not ready. I'm sorry, it's not ready. It was probably a good aircraft back in the FS 2020 days when it was first around, but not today. So that is the Fly the Mad Dog X, and even though this T-tail let us down a little bit, there's definitely other T-tails out there, vintage T-tails at that. So come back over the next couple of weeks and we'll take a look at some of those, huh? How's that sound? Anyway, that is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I do dearly appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. But until then, as always, take it easy.